Welcome back to another video from Lord Gizmo. Today, Rob will show us how to transform an old caravan shelter into a fully livable rustic cabin. Rob starts by building the base, connecting horizontal wooden beams to the columns of the old caravan shelter. These floor beams run the full length of the structure, distributing the load evenly and creating a stable platform. Next, Rob moves on to covering the floor platform. He cuts large OSB panels to size and screws them firmly into place. OSB, or Oriented Strand Board, is an engineered wood product made from compressed wood strands. It's strong, cost-effective, and widely used as subfloor sheeting in residential construction across North America. Now that the floor is solid enough to stand on and work from, Rob starts building the wooden wall frames directly over it. A wall frame is built by nailing together a bottom plate, vertical studs, and a top plate, forming a rigid wooden panel that gets lifted and locked into position. The nailer is held at 90 degrees for straight end nailing, or tilted at 45 degrees when toe nailing studs into the plates at an angle. Nail depth matters just as much. Drive too deep and the joint weakens, too shallow and it interferes with the sheathing later on. One by one, Rob and his friend lift each wall frame upright and lock it into position. Rob frames the door openings as he builds, but leaves the window bays filled with full-length studs for now. This is a smart approach. With the frame already standing and secured, Rob simply cuts out the window opening and adds the necessary framing around it, rather than trying to build it perfectly in place from the start. Rob installs a new ridge beam running along the peak of the roof, with fresh rafters sitting beneath the existing ones. This technique of layering new framing over old is called sistering. It strengthens a weakened structure without the cost and labor of a full replacement. The old roof stays in place while the new framework quietly takes over the load. Since the original caravan shelter is a bit small for comfortable living, Rob decides to expand the footprint by extending the cabin sideways. Sonotube molds are cylindrical cardboard tubes designed specifically for forming concrete piers on site. Rob fills each one with concrete and allows it to cure, a process that typically takes 24 to 48 hours before the pier can safely carry any load. Once solid, he mounts a metal post base on top of each pier, giving the vertical posts a secure anchor point from which the rest of the floor frame can be built out. With the floor frame in place, he builds the wall frames for the new extension, the same way he did for the main cabin. Connecting the extension to the existing roof is just as critical. Rob runs horizontal beams across the top of the new wall frames, integrating the extension's roof structure directly into the new roof he built earlier. Rob lays large OSB panels flat across the roof rafters to form the roof deck, then rolls out a waterproofing membrane directly on top, sealing the structure against moisture before the final roofing goes on. The wall frames get the same treatment. A vapor barrier is stapled across them before the wooden boards are nailed in to fill and close the frame. If you're enjoying this build, make sure to hit that subscribe button. There's a lot more to come. He nails the OSB boards across the entire wall surface and then cuts out the window opening cleanly afterward, a much more precise and efficient approach than trying to fit individual pieces around the opening. Next, Rob lays rigid foam insulation across the floor, sandwiching it tightly between the subfloor and the top covering. This creates a thermal barrier that keeps the cold ground from pulling heat out of the cabin during winter. Rob installs second-hand windows into the framed openings, a cost-effective choice that cuts expenses without compromising function. Before installing the windows and doors, Rob applies Resisto flashing tape around the rough opening, a self-adhesive waterproofing membrane that seals the sill and edges against water infiltration. Because even the smallest gap around a window can lead to rot and mold deep inside the wall cavity over time. Next, Rob packs the wall cavities with insulation foam, then wraps the entire structure in a non-perforated house wrap, forming a solid barrier that keeps both wind and moisture completely out. Moving inside, Rob insulates the roof cavity to prevent heat from escaping through the top. Then finishes the ceiling with tongue-and-groove timber cladding. A classic choice that adds both warmth and rustic character to the interior. The elevated floor allows cold air to circulate underneath it. So Rob cuts XPS rigid foam panels to size and lays them directly over the subfloor to insulate it before the finished flooring goes on top. This kind of work demands precise cutting. Every XPS panel and every wood board must be carefully measured and trimmed to fit cleanly against the walls and edges. The area designated for the wood stove is prepared separately, with the surrounding materials chosen for heat resistance. He applies cement and lays brick cladding around it to create a heat-resistant surround that handles the high temperatures a wood stove puts out. He also builds the interior walls with tongue-and-groove boards. The interlocking edge profile means each plank slots cleanly into the last, leaving no gaps and no exposed fasteners once the wall is done. Rob's plan is to extend the cabin on both sides with a covered porch. A continuous outdoor living space that wraps the full length of the building, sheltered by a roof overhang carried on natural tree trunk posts. These are sonotube molds, cylindrical cardboard tubes designed specifically to hold wet concrete in shape while it cures underground. He cuts each one to a precise length depending on how deep the footing needs to go and how high the post sits above ground. Once the concrete sets, the cardboard simply peels away. Once the concrete cures, he drills directly into the top of the footing and locks in a metal post base. This is the anchor that holds the log post in place. It will prevent any lateral movement and keep the post firmly locked in position no matter what load comes down from above. To join the overhead beams end to end across the posts, he cuts a scarf joint, an angled or notched connection where two lengths of timber overlap and lock together at the joint point. It is a technique that dates back centuries in timber framing. And it works because the joint distributes the load across the overlap. Rather than concentrating stress at a single point, making the beam behave as one continuous piece rather than two separate ones. Before the new porch roof can tie in properly, the old eave board is pried off along the cabin wall. Removing it opens up the roof line and allows the new structure to connect cleanly to the existing one without any awkward overlaps or gaps at the joint. With the beam locked in place, Rob installs the rafters one by one. Each one running from the cabin wall out to the outer beam, evenly spaced along the full length of the porch. Natural log knee braces are then locked in between the posts and the overhead beam, giving the whole porch the kind of character you simply cannot buy at a lumber yard. On the other side of the cabin, the same process plays out. Footings, posts, beams, knee braces, rafters, and plywood decking, built to exactly the same standard from one end of the cabin to the other. This underlayment is what separates a roof that lasts decades from one that fails in a few years. Rob takes his Makita chainsaw and carves a precise notch right into that raw log. And that notch is exactly what locks the two beams together into one solid joint. Cabins are most popular across the Pacific Northwest, the Rocky Mountains, Appalachian Highlands, and the Great Lake regions of the upper Midwest. Places where land is wide open and nature is right at the door. For many Americans, a cabin represents the ultimate escape from crowded cities, noisy neighborhoods, and the relentless pace of modern life. They offer something rare these days: simplicity, self-sufficiency, and a genuine connection to the land. For older generations especially, building or owning a cabin is a lifelong dream. A place to slow down, breathe clean air, and leave something meaningful behind for the family. land still affordable in many parts of this country, that dream remains very much within reach. With the roof wrapped up, attention now shifts to the porch floor, and Rob builds it exactly the same way he built every other floor in this cabin. It all starts with horizontal beams laid across the frame, giving the structure its backbone before a single plank goes down. Long deck planks then run across those beams, laid tight one by one until the entire porch surface takes shape. Any planks that run long past the edge get trimmed flush, giving the deck that clean finished look from the outside. If you are still with us at this point, you clearly love a good build. And there is plenty more where this came from. Watching Rob turn a weathered caravan shelter into a fully livable cabin from the ground up is exactly the kind of content we live for on Lord Gizmo. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss a build like this one. Inside, the windows get their trim installed, and that simple addition transforms a rough opening into a polished, finished feature of the room. The window trim is plain white painted wood, simple, clean, and exactly what this space needs. That crisp white frame draws the eye straight to the glass, and suddenly, that view of the trees outside becomes a living picture on the wall. Up at the ceiling, the exposed beam area gets covered with a plywood panel that carries a dark textured finish. A deliberate nod to the raw log pillars that define the character of this cabin. Rob cuts each plywood panel with precision. Every piece has to fit snugly around the log pillars, and there is simply no room for error. What makes it even more impressive is how those individual panels meet edge to edge across the ceiling, lining up so cleanly that the whole thing reads as one continuous, unbroken surface. For the exterior cladding, Rob nails vertical plywood boards directly over the house wrap. Each one stained or finished in varying dark tones, giving the cabin a bold, rustic exterior that looks anything but ordinary. This build is far more complex than it looks. Every decision Rob makes has a reason behind it. If you want to dig deeper into the techniques and understand why he builds the way he does, head over to Rob's channel. The link is in the description below. With the rest of the cabin nearly finished, the bathroom is the final piece of the puzzle. Rob starts by cutting precise holes through the floor for the toilet and shower drains. For the floor, Rob lays epoxy mortar, a waterproof, chemical-resistant base that bonds tightly to the subfloor, levels the surface, and gives the tiles a rock-solid foundation to sit on. Without these two layers working together, even the best tile job eventually fails as moisture finds its way behind the walls and under the floor. Before the bathroom tiles go down, Rob lays an electric radiant heating mat across the floor. A serpentine cable system embedded in mortar that heats the floor from below. Before the tiles go down, Rob embeds a waterproofing sheet membrane into the thin-set mortar, acting as a continuous barrier between the tile surface and the subfloor, ensuring any water from above never penetrates through to the structure below. The shower walls get the same treatment. Rob applies the waterproofing membrane directly over the wall substrate, ensuring every surface that will see water is fully sealed before a single tile goes up. Rob covers the shower floor with river pebbles sliced flat on both sides. The flat bottom bonds firmly to the thin set, while the top creates a level, comfortable surface underfoot. The bathroom walls get a bold finish. Rob presses patterned Moroccan-style tiles into the thin set one by one, using tile spacers to keep the grout lines perfectly consistent across every row. Rob finishes the roof line by nailing the fascia board along the eave edge. A wide cedar board that covers the exposed rafter ends, protects them from weather, and gives the entire roof line a clean, finished look.